Your brain is hiding things from you right now. Entire layers of your reality filtered out before you even get a chance to notice them. And the filter was set by something you decided about yourself. Maybe years ago, maybe this morning. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly how that filter works, and more importantly, how to reset it. There's a cluster of neurons at the base of your brainstem, called the reticular activating system. It's small, barely the size of your little finger, and it controls what gets through to your conscious awareness and what gets deleted before you ever register it. Every second, your senses are processing roughly 11 million bits of information. You consciously experience about 50 out of 11 million. The reticular activating system decides which 50. Think about that ratio. Your entire experience of reality, everything you see, hear, notice, and respond to, is less than 1% of 1% of what's actually available. The rest? Gone. Wiped before it reaches your awareness. You're living inside a highlight reel your own brain is editing in real time. So what determines the edit? Your assumptions, your beliefs. Whatever you've decided is true about yourself and the world. The reticular activating system takes its filtering instructions from your dominant mental state. It asks one question on repeat: what matters to this person right now? And then it builds your visible reality around the answer. You've already experienced this mechanism without knowing its name. You buy a car, say a white SUV, and suddenly white SUVs are everywhere. The roads didn't change. The number of white SUVs didn't increase overnight. Your reticular activating system received a new instruction: this is relevant now, and it started letting those signals through the gate. The car example is harmless, almost cute, but the same mechanism is running on your deepest beliefs about money, love, health, and your own worth. If you've decided, consciously or unconsciously, that money is hard to come by, your brain will filter for evidence of scarcity. You'll notice the bills, you'll register the prices going up, you'll catch the news headline about economic downturn. Meanwhile, the opportunity sitting 3 feet from you gets edited out of the highlight reel. It was there, you literally couldn't see it. This is where the spiritual tradition and the neuroscience point at the same truth from different directions. Neville Goddard taught that assumption hardens into fact. He said it in the 1940s, decades before brain imaging could show us the reticular activating system in action. His instruction was precise. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and your entire world will rearrange to match that assumption. He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was describing a filtering mechanism he could observe through its effects, even without the vocabulary of neuroscience. When you assume something is true, when you genuinely shift your inner state to match a new belief, you're reprogramming the gatekeeper. You're handing the reticular activating system a new set of instructions. Show me evidence of this. And it obeys. It has to. Filtering is the only thing it does, but here's where most people stall. They try to change the assumption while still clinging to the old evidence. They say the affirmation, then look around for proof, and when the proof doesn't show up in 20 minutes, they conclude it didn't work. What actually happened is they gave the filter a new instruction and then immediately overrode it with the old one. The reticular activating system received 2 contradictory commands and defaulted to whichever one carried more emotional weight. Usually the fear, usually the doubt. The discipline this requires is real. Neville called it living in the end. It means you maintain the inner state of your desired reality, even when, especially when, your current senses show you something different. You're training the filter. Every time you return to the assumption, you strengthen the signal. Every time you react to the old evidence as though it's the final truth, you reinforce the old programming. This is the part that separates casual interest from actual transformation. Holding an assumption for 5 minutes during meditation is a start. Holding it when the bank account looks wrong, when the relationship feels stuck, when the body isn't cooperating, that's the real practice. Your reticular activating system doesn't respond to what you think once, it responds to what you think most. The dominant frequency wins. Consider what this means about the nature of evidence itself. You trust your eyes, you trust your experience. You say, I'm just being realistic. But realistic based on what? Based on the 50 bits your brain selected out of 11 million. You're drawing conclusions from a curated sample, then using those conclusions to set the next filter, which curates the next sample. The loop is self-reinforcing. Your beliefs create your evidence, and your evidence strengthens your beliefs. Breaking that loop requires something that feels deeply counterintuitive. You have to believe before you see. Every spiritual tradition that has ever produced results teaches this in some form. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That line from Hebrews isn't asking you to be naive, it's describing the operating sequence of perception itself. The substance comes first. The visible evidence follows. And there's a skeptic's version of this that actually strengthens the point. Someone might argue that confirmation bias is a flaw, a cognitive error that makes us irrational. Fair enough, the bias is well documented. But notice the implication. If your brain is already wired to seek confirming evidence for whatever you believe, then the quality of your life depends entirely on the quality of your beliefs. The mechanism runs whether you direct it or not. The only question is whether you're going to choose the filter consciously or let old programming choose it for you. Neville put this with brutal clarity. He said that everyone is imagination, and your persistent assumptions about another person or about yourself are your contributions to their life and to your own. You're always filtering, always assuming, always feeding instructions to the gatekeeper. The notion that you can opt out of this process is itself an assumption, and the reticular activating system will dutifully find evidence for that too. So what does conscious practice look like? It starts with noticing what you're noticing. For one full day, track the things that grab your attention, the complaints that feel automatic, the worries that surface during quiet moments, the judgments you make about strangers. Each one is a readout of your current filter settings. You're seeing your own assumptions reflected back at you through the content your brain selects. Then comes the revision. Pick one area. Just one. Maybe it's your financial state. Maybe it's how you experience your body. Construct a short scene that implies your desired reality is already true. Feel it. Specificity matters here. The reticular activating system responds to emotional vividness, the way a search engine responds to keywords. Vague input gets vague results. A clear, emotionally charged scene gives the filter something precise to work with. Run that scene in your mind before sleep, when your conscious resistance is lowest. Run it again when you first wake up, before the day's momentum pulls you back into old patterns, and during the day when contradictory evidence appears. Because it will, meet it with a quiet inner knowing. That's the old filter running out its last batch of results. The new instructions are already processing. The new evidence is assembling just outside your current frame of awareness. This practice has a compound effect that most people abandon too early to experience. In the first few days, almost nothing visible changes. The old evidence is still dominant. Your senses are still delivering yesterday's results. But beneath the surface, the filter is shifting. Small things start appearing, a conversation that opens an unexpected door, a piece of information arriving at exactly the right moment, a feeling of alignment that has no logical explanation but is unmistakable in the body. These aren't coincidences, they're the first signals breaking through the new filter. The people who transform their lives through this work share one quality: persistence with the inner state despite the outer delay. They understand that the reticular activating system operates on repetition and emotional conviction. A single vivid session plants a seed. Daily practice waters it. And the harvest comes on its own schedule, always after the planting, always in proportion to the consistency of care. Your reality right now is a printout of your dominant assumptions. Every relationship, every financial pattern, every recurring emotional state, it's all downstream of the filter. Change the filter and the printout changes. The 11 million bits are still there. They've always been there. Abundance was always in the signal. Love was always in the signal. Health, creativity, freedom, all of it, broadcasting continuously. The only variable is what your gatekeeper lets through the gate. You set the filter tonight, in the quiet before sleep, when the day's noise drops away and your mind is soft enough to receive a new instruction. Place your attention on the reality you're choosing. Feel its texture against your skin. Let it be more real than the room around you, more vivid than the day behind you. Hold it until it stops feeling like imagination and starts feeling like memory. That's the signal your reticular activating system has been waiting for. The one it can't ignore. The one it will spend tomorrow building evidence to confirm.